Hey, what's going on, fantasy football fans? This is Mitchell with FF Real Talk, and we're about to head into week 4 of the regular season and the fantasy season. And week 3 was pretty, it was kind of diverse in how things went down. And a lot of things happened that were heavily unlikely. Certain quarterbacks didn't perform, other quarterbacks did perform. And we got some just strange arrays of big point outages from different players. And to be honest, we're going to jump right into this because the number one waiver wire pick of the week is one of those guys that had one of the more bizarre fantasy lines that you will ever see in your life, and that's Terrelle Pryor. No guess about that. It's nothing hard to determine that. It's funny. Before the week started, as soon as Corey Coleman went down in my league, actually in my listener league that I'm in, I grabbed him immediately before this week started. I want to say it was like Friday or Thursday of last week before the weekend, but I didn't play him, and that was a huge mistake because I lost in my matchup by about, I don't know, 20 or some 10 or 20, something like that. But if I had played Terrelle Pryor in a spot, I know that I would have won that. And if I had played him over Matt Asiata, who I did play, I would have probably won that matchup. I didn't add it up, honestly, but I think I would have won that matchup. But anyway, I digress. Moving right along. I don't even have to talk about what he did specifically. He did everything from passing to rushing to receiving. And this just proves the athlete he is. And this is something anyone who saw him in college recognized. And to me, I saw it when he was on Oakland. I still don't know why they cut him back then. Now they on to greener pastures with Derek Carr, but the situation when they had Carr, it was working out pretty well when he was on the team as the quarterback. But the main thing through this, the most amazing thing about Terrelle Pryor, even though no one much wanted to own him before now, is through 3 weeks now, he's the 7th most targeted player in the league. And with Corey Coleman down for an indeterminate amount of time, and with Josh Gordon being a complete knucklehead, and you never know what's going to happen with him, did he get in some more trouble or something? Either way, this guy is easily can eclipse and become the clear number one target out there. And depending on how Cody Kessler plays, he could be quarterback or whatever. You could be getting all kind of random points from him and not even know it week to week. This is somebody who needs to be owned in every league, not 12 team, not 10, even 8 team leagues, in my opinion. At this point, Terrelle Pryor needs to be heavily involved in anybody's jumping on the waiver wire this week. That needs to be the first person you're trying to add and cut bait with any of that other crap you have on your bench that you could do away with. That needs to be a player that's 100% owned at the end of this week, and he probably will be quite close to it. Number 2, Jordan Howard. It's a simple formula with this. Opportunity breeds ownership. And with Langford down for whatever time he's going to be down, he should be snatched up ASAP, especially by Jeremy Langford owners, which was a lot of us. Me, in all the leagues I'm in, it's a heavy dosage of Langford that I bought into because you was able to get him pretty late without having to jump inside of the first 4 or 5 rounds to get him. So you was getting him at a discount price, but he's looking like he's not quite as good as we were hoping for him to be, and like a lot of experts were saying they didn't believe in him necessarily. But this is just one of them situations where opportunity breeds positive situations. So all Jeremy Langford owners need to own him. So pick him up. Number 3, Carson Wentz. After the first week, I went on this big adoration fest about Brock Osweiler and how I would like to own him over this player or that player, whatever. And I still don't even really know why I did that. I was just kind of enamored with how the defense seemed to, not the defense, but the offense seemed to flow around him, and he seemed to have a good grasp and control of it. I think it was more Will Fuller than anything. But the real story of youthful young quarterbacks is Carson Wentz. Not only is he undrafted, he's heavily unowned. He has 700 plus passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and more importantly, no interceptions. He's learned the playbook seamlessly, and he seemed to be making players like Darren Sproles' value just vault. He's becoming a must-own player as well, because he's going to take advantage of a guy like that. It's a lot of quarterbacks that are underperforming right now. I don't know what's going on with Carson Palmer in particularly. Marcus Mariota is blowing up the spot right now in terms of negatively. And right now, I feel safer playing Carson Wentz than Mariota or Palmer right now. And there's a number of guys that I can name that I'm just not in my head right now to do. Shoot, even Kirk Cousins. And it's not that he'll be a higher play threat. It's just he's safer because of his dependability that he's shown through 3 weeks. 3 weeks is nothing, but he's looking like the real deal so far. So for all, that's who I forgot, Blake Bortles. I'd much rather have Carson Wentz than Blake Bortles at this point. Blake Bortles isn't even a must-own player right now. He's kind of cut bait. He's cut in several of my leagues. So this is the guy that you would want to pull in to replace guys like that. Speaking of Darren Sproles, he's number 4. With Ryan Matthews, a lot of people thought, he would get the lion's share of the work. And through 3 weeks, he kind of has been the more rewarded player in terms of fantasy points. But if you look closely at the numbers, Darren Sproles' touches are extremely close to Ryan Matthews. The carries is what throws you off because he has very few in that column. But you all know, anybody who's played fantasy or even watched football years ago when he was on the Saints, he doesn't score that way. He scores in the passing game, and you saw it on full display in week 3. Carson Wentz needs this guy, and with him coming into his own, a guy like Sproles, he's gonna basically be a resurgence back to how he was used in New Orleans. I very much see that. And I expect to see a similar workload of what we saw going forward. He's not a clear-cut RB2, but he's most certainly a flex discussion, or in the flex discussion rather, every week, depending on the size of your league. So definitely want to keep an eye on him and grab him if he's available. Number 5, Jamison Crowder. I love what I saw in him last year, and I had the feeling this year it would be an ascension year. So far, through 3 games, he's averaged 8 targets a game, which is crazy for a player that's only 11% owned. And because Kirk Cousins, like I said earlier, being somewhat overrated, I'm really not that big on him. He's going to need a player that runs the slot like Crowder. Crowder is a PPR nightmare. He just kills it. He makes things happen very, very quick, very elusive, and like I say, his catch rate is he gets it all the time. He gets a lot of balls thrown his way. So if you're in a PPR league, 12 or more, you definitely want to own him. He's a DFS low target, a low price target rather in DFS. Well, actually, his price I was looking at him this week, isn't that great, but he's definitely someone in year-long fantasy that you'll want to have if you're in 12 or more leagues, definitely for sure. So keep him in mind also. Number 6, sort of like the Jamison Crowder situation, but different in this fact that it's injury-based. Michael Thomas. His ownership dropped to under 60%, looks like over the last week, because everybody saw that this was going to be the Willie Snead show and the Brandon Cook show. Willie Snead is dealing with some type of foot injury, and the word is it's something like turf toe. And if any of you guys know what that is, that's an injury that tends to linger longer than you would think it would. And Thomas capitalized on it this week, being in the starting lineup. He got 71 yards and a TD on 7 catches. And though it doesn't seem like it, He's big and he's fast and he's quite effective. That's the thing that everybody isn't paying attention to, even in those other games where Willie Snead was in the picture. So if Snead is forced to miss any time going forward, this is a guy that's gonna be a crazy value pickup. So actually, I would pick him up before Crowder, but it's the reason I have him behind him is because we don't know how Willie Snead's injury is going to be. Is he going to be back this week? If it's going to be 2 weeks, who knows? But he's definitely somebody you want to keep an eye on regardless. Another in the same vein of the last two, well, especially in the vein of like Jamison Crowder, which is a possession guy, Cole Beasley. This guy is sneakily becoming Dak Prescott's most dependable receiving option. And when I say that, no, I'm not saying his fantasy points are heavy, but he gets catches all the time. Although they're short distance passes, like what they highlighted on Sunday Night Football, ironically. He has 25 catches so far this year, 213 yards, which isn't bad for a player who's only under 15% owned. And as good as Dak has been, he's still going to be filling things out, trying to find his way in the league and whatnot. And players like that use the slot heavily. So he's worth a look in all leagues, but a must own in any PPR league of 12 players or more for sure. Number 8, Kyle Rudolph. Another tight end that's on a surprisingly good team. Who would have thought the Vikings would be as good as they are now? I mean, with losing Teddy Bridgewater, which I didn't think was going to be a big deal once I found out Bradford took over. That was basically, in my opinion, it was kind of, in my mind, it was an upgrade. But after they lost AP, I was like, yep, that's this team. But if y'all have seen that defense, y'all are seeing a true defense go to work. They're making experts, Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, all these great players look like chumps out there. And just a little side thing, the Vikings are heavily unowned considering they're the number one defense in football and in fantasy. They're about 64% owned. If they're available in any of your leagues, get them now. But moving back to the player I was talking about, Kyle Rudolph. Through the first 3 weeks, Kyle Rudolph is the second best tight end in the league. Second best in raw points behind only one person, Greg Olsen. And he's tied with the most targets, which is Greg Olsen with 26. That's insane. He wasn't drafted. No one counted on him. We kind of wrote him all out after the last few years where he was basically heavily underperforming. But it makes sense. Bradford needs him and what he can offer to the team, a big target with sure hands. And with Stephon Diggs getting all the attention he gets with his double coverage, they're going to need him even more. But most importantly, if it ain't you, it's probably everybody else in your league who's suffering with tight ends. For all you Zach Ertz owners, Dwayne Allen, Jared Cook, even Barnage and all this other craziness that y'all are using, do yourself a favor and drop some of these guys. I won't say drop Barnage, but drop some of these guys y'all are holding on to and pick up Kyle Rudolph. Or the number 9 option, Cameron Brate. I think it was Saturday or was it Friday? I think it was Saturday night. I tweeted this. I said, is Cameron Brate a sneaky, cheap DFS play? It's funny. He turned out to be both. He was sneaky and cheap, and it worked. And damn it, I didn't even use him in the DFS lineups I played. Should have went with my gut. Dude got he went 5 for 46 with 2 touchdowns. And we all, again, just like I said with the Kyle Rudolph thing, we all have tight end issues. And with Austin Seferian-Jenkins gone out of the picture, this looks like one of those prime spots where this guy will be the guy that takes over and is on everybody's team like, say, Barnage was last year. This is an offense that throws the ball a lot. And with Jameis and how he runs things, Cameron Brate's going to be used a ton. So for all you, like I said, Zach Ertz owners, Dwayne Allen, right now, Brate is in the conversation with the Dennis Pitters and the Jacob Tammies of the world, but with far more upside because Jacob Tammy is capped. Dennis Pitter is a huge injury risk with his hip. Cameron Brate's a young guy who can only go up. So definitely keep an eye out on him. And if you got tight end problems, get him immediately. And number 10, Steve Smith. I'm heavily surprised when I researched that he was under 60% owned based on his popularity alone. And if you look at the numbers in terms of targets, he's been very consistent. He's got only 2 targets less than the best receiver in football right now, which is Marvin Jones. I knew he was gonna have this sneaky season. Well, not even sneaky. I knew he was gonna have this explosive season. I was really high on Marvin Jones coming in, and it's glad to see that he's turning out because he's in a lot of my leagues, a lot of my teams rather in the leagues I'm in. The problem with Steve Smith is always injury risk, and he's an aging player, but he shouldn't be on any waivers, especially in sharp leagues. So if he's out there in your league and you've got that hold-on guy that you drafted that isn't doing anything, that you like Laquan Treadwell or any of these other guys you got that you do not need, you need to have Steve Smith instead. So don't hesitate. Grab him as one of your last bench spots. But that's going to do it for the Week 4 waiver additions. If you got any questions, as usual, hit me up on Twitter at FFRealTalk. That's the best place to get me. You can leave your questions here in the comments. If I catch them, I'll respond to them as soon as I can. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and spread the word. But good luck to you going into Week 4, and I hope you're enjoying the season or not getting as frustrated as I am with some of these injuries or whatever. It's still all in fun though. So continue to enjoy it and holler at me. Y'all have a good one.